in your life's blueprint, you must have as a basic principle the determination to achieve excellence in your various fields of endeavor. You're going to be deciding as the days and the years unfold what you will do in life, what your life's work will be. And once you discover what it will be, set out to do it and to do it well.
Hello and welcome. My name is Bashir Fadl. I'm the President and CEO of IT is Fantastic. I'm glad you're joining us for today's session. We're focused and committed to giving you the best in IT training so that you can get the technical skill. But along with that, and as important, we're going to make sure that you have workplace examples and scenarios and projects that you're going to be working with. And as the name indicates, IT is Fantastic, that we're committed to make it simple and beneficial to you. Glad you're joining us. Enjoy.
In today's session, we're covering questions that usually show up on the interview, frequently asked questions in the interview. There are some questions that are very technical, what we call a technical interview, and those are very specific to the job that we're applying for. So if I'm a developer, then there's going to be, a sit down with other coworkers that are going to ask me very specific job-related questions. If I'm a database administrator, we're going to sit there and talk about very specific to database administration questions. If a network admin, then things that have to do with the network specifically. But then there are general questions for any position that I'm applying for that we call frequently asked questions. And that's what we're covering today. Pertaining to IT, the best way to succeed in those or answering those questions is for me to know my audience. To even do better, to go above and beyond, the best thing that I could do is sympathize or even empathize or live the role or walk in the shoes of my audience. That way I know what they're thinking. So our audience number one is the IT recruiter or the human resources personnel, and the reason I have them separate is because if I'm working for a company, more than likely I'm going to be interviewing first, or the first person to look at my resume will be someone from HR, from the human resources. But if I'm working as a consultant or going through a consulting firm, then it's going to be their IT recruiter who's going to take my resume and then submit it to the company or the vendor, and then they're going to be the ones contacting me after that. So that's the first point of contact, is someone that receives my resume first and needs to kind of do the phone screening interview. Then it's usually a manager at the company that I'm going to be working on, or the site that I'm working at, the company that I'm working for. The next one is going to be coworkers, people that do the same thing that I do. If I'm a system administrator, they're going to be system admins. If I'm a network administrator, they're going to be network admins. If I'm a project manager, they're going to be other project managers that are going to ask me specific questions pertaining to the work that they do and the work that I will be doing and the work that I've done in the past. And then finally, other team members and managers are also expected to be involved in the interview. A lot of times people talk about interview questions and frequently asked interview questions as being trick questions. No, they're absolutely not trick questions. But if we put ourselves in the shoes of the person that's interviewing us, if we understand why they're asking those questions, I think that is the greatest success of passing those interviews. So for a moment, I need you to assume that you're the IT recruiter, that you're the human resources personnel. I'm the company, I'm the manager, and you're out there to look through the resume and find me the right person. What questions are you going to ask them, and why are you asking them? And I'll give you some real case scenarios. As an IT recruiter, as a human resources person, you go out there, you look at the resume, and you get someone in, and guess what? They have lied on their resume. They said they have 15 years of experience as a developer. When I interviewed them, they didn't have more than 5 minutes of any development experience. Or they said they've worked with all those tools and they've never worked with them. We made it very clear that we're going to pay them $70,000, but when they came in, they said they wanted $100,000. So those are the kind of challenges that I have as an IT recruiter. Number one, my priority is I want a good candidate. Number two, I look good if they hire you. Number three, I look good if you stay with the company for as long as they need you. You won't believe the number of times that we've made offers in different situations to people that have worked their resume was out there maybe a day or two, and usually as an IT professional, you don't start working immediately. There's usually a week or maybe even 2 weeks before your computer's set up, before you're reading documentation, and you're cross-training with other people and doing the security training and getting clearances and VPN access. So sometimes it's a week or two of training, so we're just paying you to get trained, and then as soon as you're trained and ready to go, and you've already got paid a check or two, you leave and you go to another company. So my job as an IT recruiter, or your job as an IT recruiter, is to make sure that I'm a good candidate, I am who I say that I am, and my resume says that I am, I'm a good fit. You give it to the manager is happy to go through it and hire me, and that I'm going to stay with the company for as long as they need me to stay. So all the questions the recruiter asks are in that direction. So now that you know what they're looking for, you know how to answer those questions. My second audience is the manager. Now I need you, before you even look at the questions the manager is going to ask, to imagine that you are the manager. So why are you hiring me? You're looking at my resume. You want to ask me questions. Why are you asking me questions? Because at the back of your mind, I need to make you look good. And I need you, or need to make your team as a whole look good. Because your job as well as a manager is disposable. You can lose your job at any given point. So you want to make sure when you hire me, and that's why you're asking all those questions, make sure that I'm a good addition to the team. I'm going to make you look good, and I'm going to make the team look good. And that's why you're asking questions that have to do with schedules and about my strength, and if I have any weaknesses, that it's something that you can work with, that I have leadership skills and team skills, that I'm technical enough, the experience that I have, my willingness to learn, how I work with other team members, and if they're falling behind, and if I like to work as a team or work by myself, because at the end of the day, you want your team to look good, which makes you look good and allows you to grow with the company as well. Now comes the coworker. So I need you to kind of think of why they're asking those technical questions, why they're going to go through your resume and go through every single item in your resume and ask you about it, why they're going to go over what the job description is and make sure that you fit each and every single category. It's because, and now I want you to think that you're the coworker and I'm the candidate that you're interviewing. Number one, you want to make sure that the projects get done. As an IT professional, quote unquote, you're a geek. You're a techie. All you're worried about is the project getting done. So you want to make sure that I'm excited about the technology. You want to make sure that I know all the different features, that I've worked with it, that I'm willing to learn and work with other, come up with new ideas and creative ideas. So you want to make sure that the projects are going to get done. The second thing then after that is good support within the team itself, inter-team rapport. You want to make sure that the team itself is cohesive, that we're going to work together and get things done, because sometimes I might fall behind and I need your help, or you might fall behind and you need my help. Sometimes I'm going to make a mistake debugging something or troubleshooting something. So we need to be a cohesive team that works together. And then finally, good inter-team. And so now we're looking beyond the team. In IT, there's no team that exists by itself. If you're a development, your code is only as good as the network that it supports. That it's supported by it, the servers that it exists within, the database that it's getting its data from. Those are all things that affect your code. If you're a network admin, your network is as good as, no matter how fast it is, it's going to be affected by the speed of the database that you're getting the data from, the security that exists in, whether it's Active Directory or LDAP, and the OS that you're working with, whether it's Unix or Linux or Windows. All of those coming together. So you want to make sure that when you get me in, that not only am I good and technical within my area, but I'm willing to work with other teams and troubleshoot with other teams and be able to have that good rapport with them. In many cases in IT, in addition to the recruiter, the HR person, and then the manager that you're going to be reporting to, and coworkers that you're working with, that means within the team that you're going to be working with, sometimes they invite people from other teams or even managers from other teams. Why? For three reasons. Number one, collaboration. Number two, collaboration. Number three, collaboration. What does that mean? The way IT works is sometimes there is conflict by default. For example, I'm a developer, you're a tester. My job is to work hard based on the specifications and requirements to create the best program. I've worked a month on it. I know it's the best program, and it's exactly as the specification says. I've done my unit testing, and I know it's good. Your job as a tester is to bag my program in 1,000,001 different ways until you break it and go into a meeting and say, I broke it, your code doesn't work. So by default, it sets us against each other. In other cases, you could be the system admin, let's say for Unix, and I'm a database administrator. So if there's a performance issue, it's easy for me to point the finger, say, no, the problem's with the server, and it's easy for you to point it and say the issues with the database, and thus conflict could be created very easily. So a lot of managers realize that proactively, and they want to make sure that their teams work together. When there's a performance issue, that the Unix admin and database admin don't point fingers at each other, but that they're willing to sit together and work on things. That the developer and the tester are not sending 101 emails back and forth, but they're willing to sit together and collaborate and work in a systematic methodology. And that's why you might have someone from a different team or a manager from a different team. Their goal is to make sure that when you come in, that you're someone that's willing to collaborate, maybe create SOPs, standard operating procedures, do cross-training to make sure that the teams are cohesive and work together best for the productivity and the overall performance of the IT teams. Now that we know our audience, we can understand the kind of questions they're going to be asking, relate to them, and be able to answer the questions a little bit better. So the first person is the recruiter, and that's our audience. The category of questions they're going to ask us with, and some of the sample questions. So the first category are you as good as your resume says you are? Again, we've said there's a lot of scenarios where a resume looks really good, and that's why we picked it, but the person might have added a lot more things that are not really there. So that's why the recruiter is going to ask us questions such as, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And this is where I need to take the lead and actually tell them some of the accomplishments that I've done, the work, the projects that I've worked with, the challenges that I have. This gives me an opportunity to share my talent, but also related to the position that I'm applying with. So not just to say that I'm the greatest developer, but that the talent, the experience, the knowledge that I have allows me to do a good job at this position that I'm applying with your company. Second sample question is, why was there a gap in your employment? Because sometimes people leave from a job to another. This is where we want to make sure that it's not just, I lost a job or was fired, or to show a lack of motivation, but we want to show the reason in case I didn't work for some time or left a job, that I have something that shows that I am motivated as we speak today, and that's why I'm pursuing this opportunity. Next question, can you explain why you changed career path? And sometimes what happens is some people will change direction as we look at the job. Maybe someone goes from a technical position to a more managerial position and does less technical work. Maybe someone was a network admin and got more into security. Maybe someone was in security and moved into development. Maybe someone was within development, went into business intelligence. So we want to make sure that we show that motivation and that the talent that we learned, again, is something that brings strength to the position. That you always want to show your strength, and you want to drive that strength to the position you're applying with. Review dates and degrees, certifications on resumes. Again, one of the biggest problems that a lot of people face is you've worked at different places, you've worked at different companies, you've graduated from different colleges and have different degrees and certifications. And so we're going under the microscope and reading what day did you start working in this place. And sometimes a person might skip a couple of months or a year or two, and that's a very big red flag. So we want to be very careful that we review the dates before that phone screening interview with the recruiter. Rate yourself skill set from 1 to 10 on the following. A lot of times what happens is, as a recruiter, we're looking at certain things that we need. So let's say we need something such as development skills. So I'm looking for someone that knows C#, that knows PowerShell, that knows SSIS and SSRS. So I'm going to ask you to rate yourself from 1 to 10 on those areas. So you want to make sure that you know what the job description says. It's pretty much an open test or open quiz, open book quiz. The job description is the answer. So you need to make sure that you have the right skill set in those areas. Now there's professional questions, which is, for example, what is your availability? If you tell me that you're working at a company and yes, I'm available as soon as I get the offer. So if I get the offer today, I'm going to quit today and join you today. That shows lack of professionalism. Even though you think that you're doing me a favor and I should pick you for it, but it shows me that you're someone that doesn't have a loyalty. You're not someone that puts in a 2 weeks notice. you're not professional. So you want to show professionalism and courtesy by saying usually something about 2 weeks notice, or if there's a project that needs to end, people respect that. References, again, usually when you're working at a company, it's not good to kind of get your manager's reference or them contacting them while you're doing the job search, but they need to be aware that once an offer is made that they're available upon request. What type of work environment do you prefer? This is one of the questions, and again, you want to tie it always to the position that you're applying with, so it shows that you're interested in that position. How would your boss and coworkers describe you? Again, we're looking for a professional answer. In addition to that, you want to show that, if your boss and your coworkers have something good to say about you, that you're going to come into this company, to this new position, also make sure that your boss and coworker are going to like you for those characteristics. The next area the recruiter is looking for is they don't want someone that's just going to come in for a couple of days, maybe get a better offer and just walk out or leave, or someone that's just looking to make money and walk out. So that's why they ask questions such as, why did you leave, or why are you leaving your current job? You already have a job, why are you leaving it? So again, you want to show that it's not just a matter of maybe, better pay or something, but you want to show that this company or this opportunity has growth and you're interested in that growth, you're interested in the challenge that this position has, something that shows that you're going to be in that position for a long time. Again, there's questions such as, would you consider relocation, travel, remote work? A lot of positions nowadays might require a little bit of travel for us to relocate from one branch to another, from one city, one county, one state to the other, and in some cases to work remotely. And again, it's just the nature of IT, and so those are the things that we want to show that we're willing to do. Hopefully you're willing to do that. And then also the reason for searching a job, because the fact that you already have a job more than likely and you're searching for a job means even when you're working with us that you're going to be searching for another job. So we want to make sure that we express that if I get this job, this is the opportunity that I'm looking for. This is me, hitting the jackpot. Salary expectations. There's going to be a lot of questions about what are your salary requirements and what salary are you seeking and how much are you currently making. And usually you do not want to answer that question because that puts you in a bracket. If I have a position that pays $90,000 and I keep asking you how much are you currently making and how much are you looking for, it pays $90,000, but you just spill it and said you're making $60,000. I'm not going to offer you the 90. I'm going to offer you probably 63 or 65, and you just locked yourself down without even knowing it. So usually you want to avoid answering that question, and what you probably want to do is ask what the average is. More than likely they're going to tell you, depending on the experience, it pays between, let's say, 70 to 90. And you want to show that that's something that you're willing to work with, and you can always negotiate it after that. But you do not want to speak the salary out first. You want the recruiter to tell you what it is. Okay, now that you've passed your phone screening interview, the recruiter calls you in to a face-to-face interview with the manager. Sometimes they might use something online, such as Skype, where you could dial in and they kind of see you face-to-face. Most than likely, it's where you go onto the company's premises and you're in their office and talking to the manager, maybe in a conference room where it's the manager and a couple other coworkers. And now their questions, the manager questions, are, the first categories are, they want to make sure that you're the guy in the resume, because the resume that they have looks really good. It looks like a good candidate. It looks like someone that fits within the company. So now they're going to ask you questions to make sure that you are the person in the resume. So the first question could be something about, describe an average day at the workplace. So if you describe, for example, you're a database administrator, so you check on performance, you check on log files and any error logs and alert logs, and check on the timings and performance, and you tune things and run AWR reports or performance reports and customize reports and so on, then that's what you want to come out and talk about in a strength, and also show that this is something that is positive that you're going to bring into this new position. They might talk about describing your current job. Again, it gives you a chance to describe the roles and responsibilities that you have and the expertise that you have that allow you to do that job, and how you can bring those into this position based on the job description. Then there's going to be a few questions about challenges and how you deal with challenges. Again, as a manager, there's a lot of, I know that there's a lot of stressful situations. I want to make sure when you come in that you're able to deal with those situations. Some of them are work situations, some of them are situations within the team, some of them are confrontations with me as your manager. So some of those questions will be, tell me about a challenge or conflict that you faced at work and how you dealt with it. Another one is, what's the time you disagreed with a decision that was made at work? How do you deal with pressure or stressful situations? How do you handle pressure? Some of the examples, for example, some examples with situations and challenges with management. Some from my earlier days as a developer and on different IT positions had to do, and it usually happens with the financial situation. In case if I think we need to upgrade a software from version A to version B, for example, a lot of times for us as IT professionals, we see the justification. We know the new features, but management sees that, you know, software or an application or a server or a database or the hardware or the software is working pretty good. It does what it needs to do. Why should I spend or justify spending $40, $60, $100,000 to upgrade or patch or do something in addition to it? So this is a case of a conflict where, you know, it's something that the management doesn't want to do because they don't see a justification for the cost. You as a developer, you as an IT professional see that this is something that's justifiable. How do you deal with it? You probably, you know, might want to do like a presentation, or you want to write down the benefits and try and justify it. And so those are the kind of things that we want to see, that you have that persuasive ability, and also that if it doesn't go your way, you're someone that's able to kind of accept it and put it in the back burner to make sure that it's something that, you know, that you're a team worker at the end of the day. Sometimes the stressful challenge has to do with the work itself. You know, a server crashes, a database crashes, the application, the website crashes, and it's something that's my fault, and how do I admit to it, and how do I run in and fix it, and how do I deal with the processes if they have change orders in place and incidents in place, and how do I follow the SOPs, and so we want to make sure that your experience shows that you work good under pressure, you're good with disagreements, and that you have a calm head that allows you to always face those challenges and come victorious in bringing your team together to a better position. As a manager, one other area that we focus on is we want to find out your strength and your weakness. So there's a lot of questions that about your strength and others about your weakness, and they could be worded one way or the other, such as, why should we hire you? What are your greatest professional strengths? Describe a difficult work situation and what you did to overcome it. What is your greatest professional achievement? What are the 3 positive things your last boss would say about you? What can you do for us that other candidates can't? So we're basically looking for you to tell us what your strength is. One thing that I highly recommend on strength is sometimes I might see a strength and I'm very proud of it, but it might not relate to the company that I'm applying for. So let's say I'm a database administrator and the company or the contract that I'm going to work for has a major performance issue. So when you look at the job description, out of the 10 things they're asking for, 3 or 4 of them have to do with performance issues. So when they ask me for my strength, I could say, well, I discovered something that had to do with patching or upgrading, and I'm wonderful with upgrading, which excites me and it looks real good and it's a good strength. However, they're not interested in an upgrade. The job description, most of it talks about performance and performance issues. So I want to make sure that I want to bring an example that has to do with the job description. If they have performance issues, I want to talk about my strength in performance tuning, that here's the situation and here's the reports that I ran and here's how I troubleshot, did the troubleshooting to get the issue identified and the bottlenecks and so on and so forth, and this is how I dealt with it and fixed it. So make sure you look at the job description and find the strength that relates to the job description, not strength that you necessarily like and enjoy but do not relate to the position. Your weaknesses. When it comes to the weaknesses, again, you want to mention a weakness because that's what they're asking for, but one thing that is very, very important is do not stop by just mentioning the weakness. Make sure you mention how you overcame that weakness. For example, I'm a SQL Server DBA. I've worked with SQL Server 2008 R2, with 2012, 2014. I have not worked with 2016, which is the latest version. But I don't just stop there and say that's a weakness. I can go on and say, however, that's why I downloaded the trial version, and that's why I started testing it and playing with it, and this is how I overcame my weakness. So you want to talk about something that might show a weakness, because again, in IT, we always expect new features, upgrades, updates, and that you don't know everything that has to do with it, but you want to show us how you overcame that weakness by, again, I was able to download it, I was able to work with it, I was able to read on it, research it, and I overcame that weakness. The next question has to do, or category of questions has to do with team effort. As a manager, again, one of my goals is I want my team to be cohesive. I don't have problems within my team. I already have budgeting problems and needing to work with other teams and other managers and have a director to report to. The last thing that I want to worry about is issues within my team. So I want to make sure my team is cohesive, they work very good together. So those are some of the questions that we're going to ask. For example, what would you do if a coworker falls behind on their schedule? Do you prefer to work by yourself or work with a team? What would you add to the team, for example? And what are some of your team building skills? So again, what you want to show me is you're someone that enjoys working with a team, that you bring strength to the team. Some of the things that you bring in a team, especially in IT, are things such as code reviews, especially if you're a developer, that other people create the code or write the code, and code review means that you review it and make sure it adheres to standards. Collaboration, that you're willing to work with other teams and everybody's working on their piece. Sometimes we have things such as SharePoint, which is kind of a centralized repository where everybody centralizes their documentation. SOPs, which is kind of like a checklist or standard operating procedures. Those are the things that we want to show that you bring to the team, that you work with the team on. Another question, it's kind of a trick question, do you prefer to work by yourself or with a team? It's kind of a catch-22 situation. If you tell me that you like to work by yourself, it tells me that you're not a team player. You're kind of a selfish person, or you don't have that personality to interact with other people. Okay, what if you say you like to work with a team? It shows me that maybe you're not technically strong enough that you have to always depend on a team. So for me, the right answer would be somewhere in the middle, in my opinion. Something such as, it depends on the project that I'm working on. If the project needs us to work as a team, I'd like to lend myself, and I find it very beneficial to work with a team, and I enjoy working with a team. And sometimes, if I'm assigned a task to work by myself, then I work by myself and I get it done on schedule, on target. And of course, there's the question, or there could be a question about what if one of your coworkers doesn't meet the schedule, falls behind. You want to show that you're supportive of your team members, and before you go to management and complain about them, that you're able to support them, you're able to sit with them, maybe work a couple of extra hours to kind of get to the root cause and help them. There's a lot of cases where, again, we're human beings as co-workers, and we have family emergencies, and we need to leave out of the country, and or maybe out of state, and or take a few days off, or leave of absences and summer vacations. So we want to be able to work with our co-workers and help them and support them, as we also expect them to do the same thing. In a lot of companies, we have what's called the on-call schedule, or rotating schedule, which means if there's 4 members, maybe 1 week in the month, 1 out of the 4 weeks in the month, you're going to be on call, and the other 3 weeks, other people are going to be covering for you, and maybe they can't cover. So you want to show that you have that team attitude. Sometimes we apply for a technically 100% just a technical position, and maybe there's an opening within the same team or a different team that has to do with the leader, that's more in a leadership position, such as a team lead or a manager or something. And so questions might come up about leadership skills. So we want to make sure that we're ready to explain it, and how sometimes maybe we've done things such as cross-training. Sometimes that we've done something that had to do with leadership, maybe a project that we had to manage, if it's a smaller project or a larger project in some capacity, and how we kind of brought the team together. So be prepared to give examples of any leadership skills that you have. Definitely on a professional level, and sometimes people that do extracurricular activities also have other leadership skills. Okay, one other area that's very important for the manager is to make sure that we're going to work in that company for a long time. Like I said, a lot of times there's cases where someone comes to a company, their resume is still online after we spent a week or 2 or 3 weeks of training them and giving them documentation and access, and we spent all this effort for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even a month. They tell us, oh, it was a pleasure working with you, we're out, and go pursue another position. Now we need to go back and do all the interview process over again. And so it's just a lot of wasted time. So we want to make sure when we hire someone that that person is going to be there for a long time as a manager. That's the manager's priority. So there's a group of questions, a category of questions that it has to do with the longevity expectation, that you're going to be there for a long time. So those questions could be something, and you want to make sure at the back of your mind that they want to make sure you're going to be there for a long time. So they might ask questions about how long do you plan to stay? How did you hear about this position? What do you know about the company? What do you want, or why do you want this job? Why should we hire you? Why do you see yourself, or where do you see yourself in 5 years from today? Why are you leaving your current job? Were you fired? If you were fired, why? What are your goals for the next 30, 60, 90 days? What are your goals? Why do you want to work here? Why are you looking for a new opportunity? So this is where we want to show that we have done our homework. I did not just you want to assure the manager I did not just randomly apply for this job or come to this interview. You want to assure them because you looked at the website of the company, you looked at the job description, that this company that you're joining right now is a good fit to what you like to do. The company, you like their mission. The job that you're applying for is exactly what you're looking for. And this is a company that you see yourself growing with and staying with for as long as they would like you to be there. It's a company that you'll be motivated, and a position that you'll be motivated to fill. Again, everybody knows at the end of the day we apply for a job because of the money, but you don't want to show that you're greedy or that's the only reason that you applied. So how did you find out about the position? You want to show that you were searching online, you were looking for a good position that fits your ambitions and that would motivate you to grow with, and that was the position that we were interested in. So you want to draw the idea that basically, if I join this company, I'm going to be with you for as long as you want me to be there. I want to be there for a long time. Why should we hire you? An answer to the question like that is A, because you're qualified and you want to show how you're qualified for that position based on your expertise, based on your resume, based on the job description that they have, but also because you're a good fit and you like the company and you're going to grow with the company. You're going to be someone that's dependable with the company, and your expertise and your knowledge is going to help support the company. Why are you leaving your current position? No matter how bad it is, bad-mouthing your previous employer is not a good idea, because if you say the manager was terrible, chances are you're going to be saying the same thing about me as your manager. If you say it's a terrible company, guess what? You're probably going to end up saying the same thing about us. So again, it's not about bad-mouthing your current or previous employer, but it's about drawing from the strength that you have and that you want to grow, and you're pursuing something that's kind of in the line and the future that you're expecting with this opportunity. One of the things that's important for a manager is to know what your expectations are. As the hiring manager, I know exactly what I need. I put it on the job description. I spelled it out. I said I need a Java developer. It's very clear. I need a Java developer that's going to work 40 hours once a month. I need them to be on call for a week. I've spelled out exactly what I want. But now I want to make sure that you meet those expectations. So I'm going to ask you questions about your expectations. What's your dream job? What other companies are you interviewing with? What are you looking for in the new position? Do you have any questions for us? What would you work? Would you work more than 40 hours? What do you like the most and least about your working in this industry? Who are our competitors? I want to make sure that, again, I know what my expectations are. I want to make sure your expectations align with my expectations, with what's in the job description. So I'm looking for a Java developer, and you say, well, I'm applying for this job, but I really want to work as a C# developer. Okay, our expectations are different. This is not the position for you. I'm probably going to keep looking at more resumes because your expectations are not aligned with what I have put out in my job description. Again, if there's cases where overtime is expected, and I put it clearly on the job description that it's going to be for 40 hours plus, with once a week you need to be, it's already spelled out in the job description, and then you come to the interview and your expectations are different, then we have an issue. And that's why when we talk about expectation questions, make sure you read the job description very clearly, not just the technical, but the other things that have to do with support and have to do with third-party products and other things that we already spelled out, because the manager has already put their expectations in the job description, and they want to make sure yours are at least aligned to it, if not more. So when you ask questions about your dream job, if you have any questions for us, you want to make sure that those questions have to do with expectations that align with the job description, and also you want to ask questions that show interest. So when they ask you, when you're given the opportunity at the end of the interview, do you have any questions for us? You want to show interest in the company, interest in the interviewer. There's nothing better than if you're my manager and when you say, do you have any questions at the end of the interview, for me to show interest in you. And okay, well, sure, I had a question. How many years have you been with the company, and how do you like it, and what motivates you to come in every morning and to do what you do? I can look at the coworkers and say, well, what do you do on a daily basis? And when I join, what am I going to be expected to do? To kind of show that I'd love to join, that I'm interested in the company, I'm interested with in what you do. Usually a lot of companies have two things, sometimes every quarter, maybe once a year at least. The first one is called performance evaluation. So if you work for a company, after 3 months, we'll sit with you and say, for the last 3 months, here's your evaluation. Here are some of the technical skill that you worked with, and out of 10, we think you're a 7, we think you're an 8. Here are some of the team effort that you put in. Out of 10, you are an 8. And so on and so forth. It's an evaluation of what you've done in the last quarter. And then we have something else called a performance improvement plan, which means for the next 3 months, here's the areas that we want you to grow in. Technically, we want you to take this class or to train on this software. We're going to move to this area, so we want you to play with it and be prepared in it. When it comes to team, here are some of the collaborations that we need you to do with other team members. So we're always looking for growth and improvement. Every manager knows that nobody is perfect, nobody knows everything, but we want to make sure that there is room for growth and improvement. And that's why there's categories of questions that have to do with growth and improvement, such as, what are you looking for in terms of a career development? How do you want to improve yourself in the next year? What kind of goals would you have in mind if you got this job? And this is where you want to look at the job description and kind of see where you can grow with it. You want to show that you have that as a minimum, but also areas of improvements. A lot of IT jobs have what's called the required skills, and all the way at the end they have what's called preferred skills. And maybe I have all the required skills, but I don't have all of the preferred skills. So it'd be a good idea to throw in those preferred skills. Maybe it's a job for a Unix administrator, but down there it says preferred skills are Windows and Active Directory, and or maybe it's an Oracle DBA and it says preferred skills is MySQL or SQL Server. Maybe it's a Java position and it says preferred skills are C# and VB.NET. So those are the kind of things that we want to make sure that come up and exemplified in the growth and improvement, and how in the past I was able to achieve those ideas. The next area is personal values and ethics. There are some questions that look like personal questions. Again, in an interview, the manager's not trying to date you. So there's nothing actually personal about the questions. They're basically trying to find out what your values and what your ethics are. They're trying to find things such as what motivates you, what makes you happy at work, what are some of your hobbies, what are some of the websites that you like to see, what gets you up in the morning. So we're asking those questions not because of a personal relationship or friendship, but because we want to find out if you're going to have that drive after 3 months, after 6 months, after 3 years, after 6 years, for you to still come into the office and be motivated to grow with the company, and the same enthusiasm that you have today, 10 years from today you still have it. The same energy of coming with recommendations, even though we don't accept all of your recommendations, even though there's a lot of challenges, even though there's a lot of problems that we have with our servers and our networks and our systems and everything else, that 3 years from now, 6 years from now, you still have that energy, enthusiasm, drive, and motivation. So when you get those questions, again, you want to show sufficient motivation that's going to keep you motivated for as long as be. Finally, the last two members, or the last two audiences that we have, one of them is other team manager, or other teams manager, or members of other teams. where a manager from a different team might be invited or a member of a different team might be invited. Like I said, sometimes IT, the way we're structured, it's one team against the other, maybe the network against the server, maybe the server against the database, maybe the database against the ETL, and so on and so forth. So what we want to make sure is when we have a manager from a different team or a member of a different team, they want to find out, are we that kind of person that builds bridges and is willing to collaborate and share information and maybe do things such as benchmarking and come up with ideas and standard operating procedures and support the SharePoint to have that centralized documentation. So those are the things that they're looking for. Are you someone that's willing to collaborate and bring teamwork together? Last but not least are the coworkers. The coworkers are the geeks that are going to be working with you and you're going to be working with them. So they want to make sure of a number of things. Number one, are you a good addition to the team? Are you technical enough? Are you a good addition to the team? So what they're looking for is the strength that you bring to the team. Are you a good addition to the team? What areas do you feel you'll need to improve in? So they do that by doing two things. Number one, they do a thorough review of every single point that you have in your resume. So in your resume, you said, well, I've done number one, I've done number two, I've done number three. Then they're going to start by going through your resume and say, okay, tell me how you did number one, tell me how you did number two, tell me how you did number three. You want to have elaborations and examples and stories of what you did in number one, number two, number three, exactly as you have in your resume. The second thing that they're going to do is they're going to have, basically it's an open test. It's an open book test. You already know the questions they're going to ask you because it's out there on the job description. So now they're going to go through the job description basically and ask you all the technical questions. You know, in the job description it says we need someone that does 1, 2, 3, and 4. So they're going to go and say, how have you done number one? How do you do number two? How do you do number three? How do you do number four? Give examples of how you've done number one, number two, number three, number four. Give examples of challenges that you've had with number one, number two, number three, number four. So those are the questions that we're expecting from them. A thorough review of our resume and a thorough review of the job description and how we could resolve those issues. So what happens after the interviews? The audience sits and decides together. So the HR representative, the manager, the co-workers, and maybe the members of the other team sit together and say, is this person, is she or is he a good candidate? And if you are someone that meets the requirements, that's when they're going to make you an offer, and hopefully it's a good offer that you're looking for and you're able to work with that company. In the meanwhile, I cannot stress it enough, keep applying. Keep applying, keep applying. It just improves your interviewing skills as well. So keep applying until you get that offer, and if it's the offer that you're looking for, best of luck with it. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
In your life's blueprint, you must have, as a basic principle, the determination to achieve excellence in your various fields of endeavor. You're going to be deciding as the days and the years unfold what you will do in life, what your life's work will be. And once you discover what it will be, set out to do it and to do it well.